The college football season is finally here. The NFL season is finally here. And the MLB playoffs are right around the corner. If you're a sports fan, this is the time to be alive. My name is Jacob Hopkins, and welcome to Florida Man Sports. The Georgia Bulldogs are the new team to beat in college football. They've won 26 straight regular season games. However, they've got a new QB in the system. Many analysts are skeptical of the Dogs' newest field general. Carson Beck will be the Dogs' newest QB, and he is no stranger to the system. He's in the program for his third year and has had ample playing time. When you're the backup to the back-to-back defending champions, you tend to see the field a lot because there's usually a few blowouts mixed in. Heck, he played an entire quarter in the Natty last year. Georgia is strong on both sides of the ball. They're returning 73% of last year's production. The men in red and black are the obvious favorites to win it all this year. Georgia really is the new Alabama. Yet, Alabama is trending in the wrong direction. They failed to win their own division last year and suffered their first two-loss season since 2019. The Tide just wasted the greatest QB the program had ever seen, and they still don't know who's next in line. Mind you, the season starts this weekend. Nick Saban's age is getting up there, and so is his time at Bama. While they are the team of my childhood, I am pleased to say the Crimson Tide have officially fallen off. Analysts are saying that the Clemson Tigers are also falling off. I say they could slip into the playoffs this year. They brought in some offensive help that could easily steer the offense right. Garrett Riley, the brother of Lincoln Riley, just joined the squad. And if there's one thing the Riley bros know, it's offense. Garrett was the offensive coordinator at TCU last year, and that offense was lethal. And with the Tigers' struggles at QB gone and Cade Klubnik as the starter, the offense is sure to be restored to what it was in the Watson and Lawrence days. Klubnik took over last year and had over 300 total yards in each of the games he played. Given that the offense will be more creative than in years past, and it'll be more catered towards his skill set, Clemson will be back on the map. It's not crazy to say that Klubnik could be in the Heisman race this year, but Clemson's not the only team ready to plunge back into relevancy with a star quarterback. Stay tuned. I'm sure we all remember the clip of former Texas Longhorn QB Sam Ehlinger telling the world that the Horns were back. For those who don't, roll the tape.
We're back!
Since this remark was made back in early 2019, the Horns haven't won more than 9 games in a season. But in 2023, they could win 11 or even 12 regular season games, the conference title, and possibly book a trip to the playoffs. Other than Alabama, they have a relatively easy schedule. Their only other challenge is Kansas State, but they play them at home. The Bama game could go the Horns' way. With Quinn Ewers under center and the Tide's QB situation, Texas could easily go 12-0. And Quinn Ewers could win the Heisman. He only suffered 2 losses last year while averaging over 200 passing yards per game. Please note that most of the yards were stolen by Bijan Robinson, who's now in the NFL and was a Heisman candidate last year. But he's a long shot to win the Heisman. With more in the Heisman race is Connor Dixon.
Thanks, Jacob. I'm Connor Dixon, and these are my top 3 Heisman picks. Number 1, Caleb Williams. Now, there has only ever been one repeat Heisman winner in the history of the award, Archie Griffin in 1975. But looking at the top contenders for Heisman, nobody shines brighter than Williams. He had 4,000 yards and 47 total touchdowns for USC last year, so he may not even have to improve his stats. Just replicating that same season could be enough. Now at number 2, I'm going to go with Bo Nix. Nix transferred from Auburn to Oregon before last season, and it looks like it was for the best. Nix led the Ducks to a 10-win season while looking like one of the best dual-threat quarterbacks in college football. Nix had 3,600 passing yards and 43 total touchdowns. The one question mark is how he'll do under a new offensive coordinator in Will Stein. I didn't want to have all quarterbacks on my list, so number 3 is Ohio State wide receiver Marvin Harrison Jr. In the last 7 seasons, only one non-QB has won the award. wide receiver Devontae Smith in 2020. As a sophomore, he had 1,100 receiving yards plus 12 touchdowns. If anyone other than a QB wins the Heisman this year, it'll be Marvin Harrison Jr. That's all for the Heisman race. Back to you, Jacob.
Thanks, Connor. I can hardly wait for this year's season to start. But that's not the only season on the horizon. The NFL is back, and we've got a lot of new faces on new teams. Don't go anywhere. From playoff hopefuls to Super Bowl contenders, the Jets have gone out and found their new man in Aaron Rodgers, and they've surrounded him with the weapons of his choice and more. Garrett Wilson, Allen Lazard, Mecole Hardman Jr., Randall Cobb, and Dalvin Cook. Not to mention the only coach who's been able to work with Rodgers and keep him happy, Nathaniel Hackett. Rodgers' current mindset is Super Bowl or bust. The sun is setting on his career as he enters his age 39 season. The former Packer has just about every award you could want on your mantle, including a ring. But Rodgers won't retire until he gets his second. The list of QBs with 2 Super Bowls shortens drastically and contains only members of the Hall or future members. But this season brings a plethora of new faces to the league. There are 3 new QBs, all drafted top 5, who are set to start week 1. Over to Elijah with more.
Thanks, Jacob. Coming into the NFL season, Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, and Anthony Richardson were drafted as the top 3 quarterbacks in the first round, and all were expected to be the starting QB for each of their teams, and that has been the case so far. Let's start off with Bryce Young. As the number 1 overall pick, he has high expectations on a young Carolina Panthers roster with veteran talent going into the 2023-2024 NFL season. Frank Wright, as the new head coach, has his work cut out for him, but he has some good starting pieces. The defense is led by Brian Burns and Jeremy Chin, while the offense is new but steady with veterans like Miles Sanders and Adam Thielen, who signed during the offseason. It is hard to say if Young could make the transition from college-level play to how the NFL is. He struggled on offensive drives against the New York Jets and the New York Giants. But it's all cleared up now based on how he played against the Detroit Lions, showcasing his athletic ability by running the ball and moving down the field, scoring his first NFL touchdown pass to Thielen in the end zone.
All right, so we've heard about Bryce Young. What about CJ Stroud?
As for CJ Stroud, it might be the same case for him. Stroud had some difficulty connected with his receivers with overthrows and dropped passes. He struggled against New England in their first preseason game. He couldn't get the ball out quickly enough and threw an interception on the first drive. However, he found something good with his offense against the Miami Dolphins. Despite the loss, Stroud seemed to clean up his act and made good throws down the field. As for his performance against the New Orleans Saints, he didn't make big plays, but he got a big moment by scoring his first NFL touchdown pass to Nico Collins. The Houston Texans have a very young roster with DeMeco Ryans as the new head coach and several other coaches on their staff. Hopefully, there will be more to come of CJ Stroud this season.
All right. Now, what about the wild card, Anthony Richardson?
For Anthony Richardson, this is an interesting case. Despite only playing 2 preseason games, he has made some good but tough throws for his receivers to catch. He led the offense to a few scoring drives, but there were moments of his inability of making the right throw. He has shown flashes when he runs with the football and is capable of throwing the deep ball, but there are shades of doubt looming the team that if Richardson, like Young and Stroud, can make the transition, and internal struggles with the Jonathan Taylor issue. Richardson might be looking for something sooner or later if he wants to continue building the confidence and success for the future.
Thanks, Elijah. With the NFL season approaching rapidly, the MLB season is winding down. Find out which teams came out of nowhere and what players could be taking home hardware. All that and more coming up next. The MLB playoffs are roughly a month away. The usual suspects are about to lock up their divisions as the Braves and Dodgers have massive leads and are close to clinching. But this year, 2 new teams have entered the mix. The Seattle Mariners are leading their division right now. This is the first time they've held sole possession of first this late in the year since 2001, when they won 116 games. This year's success has stemmed from elite pitching and a 15-game hit streak from Julio Rodriguez. The pitching staff has the top ERA in the MLB, and they have a three-headed monster at the top of the rotation, with all-stars Luis Castillo and George Kirby, along with Logan Gilbert, who's been on an absolute tear since the All-Star break. Let's not forget about their lethal bullpen. Matt Brash, who is possibly the best slider in baseball, and also fireballer Andres Munoz. But the team's real star is still J-Rod. He's the only player in the AL with 30 stolen bases, 30 doubles, and 20 home runs. He also just set an MLB record with 18 hits in a 4-game span. It's no wonder the Mariners have control of their division. This is a weird sentence, but the Orioles are actually good now. Their numbers don't jump off the page, but yet they win games. This is Moneyball on steroids. They have a core of young guys on both sides of the ball who, for the most part, don't have more than 2 years of MLB service time, but somehow they have the best record in the American League. But we all know the AL MVP is going to be Shohei Ohtani. However, the NL race is heating up. We'll be right back. At the beginning of the year, we had one obvious pick for the NL MVP. Now, we have no clue. Here to give his take on the race is Joseph Lemelin.
It looked like Ronald Acuna Jr. had the lock and seal on unanimous MVP award. That is, until the month of August came around, and he's only batting .320. Now that sounds like a great average, but not when Mookie Betts is batting .615 and going 7 for 15 in Fenway Park. Now, when the NL Player of the Week award came out, Mookie Betts shot up to first place in the MVP rankings for the first time this season. Mookie Betts is currently leading the league in many categories. He's the leader in WAR, home runs, and OPS. Acuna only has a better batting average than Betts. He's hitting .330 and Mookie is hitting .315. However, Mookie has also played shortstop and second base this season as an outfielder and is on a first place team. This year, Mookie Betts is the perfect example of a most valuable player. Freddie Freeman is also beating out Acuna in multiple categories: batting average, RBIs, and OPS. So it looks like it could be either Dodger going home with this award this year. Mookie Betts is sitting at -130 betting odds, Acuna is at +120, and Freddie Freeman is +900. For Full Sail Live, I'm Joseph Lemelin.
Thanks, Joseph. That's our show. Thanks for tuning in for this installment of Florida Man Sports. I'm Jacob Hopkins.